Okay, so this is the panel Q&A. Go ahead, Scott.
Can you hear me? To both gentlemen, when you were working on building your models, were they done internally? Did you have a third party do them? Was it a collaboration where you had to sign non-disclosure agreements for technology? I'm curious how that progressed in developing your models, either through your APC or
Is it on?
Test one.
Is it on? I think it's on. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I would say both. So we utilize, of course, available software technologies offered by different technology providers. Most of the work has been done in-house, but sometimes we do it in collaboration with that technology providers. Especially something that is unique in the industry, such as the oil hub, was sort of a joint collaboration between us and the technology providers, and similarly also the master gas systems. But we do also a lot of in-house implementation for APC as well as process modeling.
So we started out, as I said earlier, I wrote a white paper on the subject, but in writing the white paper, I had the benefit of knowing tons of people in automation. I've been involved in ISA for, well, my entire career, 34 years. And so I knew tons of people. And if I had a question about the digital twin or had a question about robotic process automation or anything else, I would ask. But I had a pretty good career in all the different crafts, meaning, automation, electrical systems, reliability, maintenance, et cetera, et cetera. And so I wrote a lot of that myself, but then I would vet it with friends. But once I got it written, I knew I needed a partner and a partner to get it done besides the staff. And I assembled staff of handpicked people that I had known in my career. A lot of them very young, a lot of them seasoned. And so when we assembled those folks together, we started a partnership with Emerson Corporation. So, of course, there are NDAs involved, right, about our process, but that really helped jumpstart it because I didn't envision the Born Digital program with Emerson in mind, although I probably wouldn't have gone to anybody else. And the reason is in 34 years, Emerson never let me down, ever. And I've got some amazing stories that I could tell you. One of them is they actually once opened a factory for me to remake a part they had never made so that I could get PS1 out in the Persian Gulf running overnight. So, you don't get a partner like that every day. So when we developed that partnership with Emerson, they do about 55% of our entire Born Digital process. They can't do it all. They just don't have that breadth yet. But everything they do is great. And then we assemble other people together that help do that. For instance, digital twinning is all done by a company out of Norway. It's called Visco. Of course, they have NDAs with our process. So you just gather together partners that you need to get it done, because you can't do it yourself. We're not an engineering house. That's not our core competency. Our core competency is to build plastics plants, right?
Great, thanks. Anybody else have a question? Really? Okay, I'm going to ask one because you've got the green field, you've got brown field that you basically come up. Now, Jim, you've had experience in both. If you had to do what you did for Pure Cycle for one of your former lives, how would you approach it?
Well, of course, it's way more difficult to do it in a brownfield facility. Most of the time, most of all, you're hit by ROI, right? You have to have return on investment, and it's because of the nature of the work. When you gave the description of the talk today, you talked about it's very difficult to go out and repipe. It's very difficult to go out and rewire. When you build something from the beginning in a greenfield plant, it costs about, let's say it costs $1. If you go to a brownfield facility, it can cost between $8 and $10 to do the exact same thing. So it's harder. I mean, the ROI is what matters. So, and I'm sure, as he told you earlier, I mean, you do the things that get you the biggest payback first. We were lucky that we got to do everything at once. And doing everything at once is really nice because you build one architecture. you don't have to make it work. You don't have to translate. You don't have to make that digital transformation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that it is very difficult to do it from a brownfield standpoint, but really, doing it, saying it's difficult to do it in a brownfield plant doesn't mean you don't do it. It means you look for the greatest payback first.
Mm-hmm. You want to comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, we also have, I would say, the same experience. Always the brownfield represents a bigger challenge compared to greenfield due to several factors. First, especially if the facility is pretty much old, then data availability could be an issue, such as the equipment data sheet, what have you, and also post implementation. The plant personnel, it will take them time to adapt to utilizing these different digital tools. Unlike the case for the greenfield, where you pretty much start fresh, all the personnel will be trained to operate the facilities along with utilizing the new digital tools. So I would say similar aspect. So for the brownfields, we started sort of avoiding the big bang where we flood the facilities with full-fledged of digital solutions and gradually introduce critical ones and then expand to the remaining digital solutions.
Okay. Bob?
Hi, yes, Bob Whitaker with Shell. Thank you for your presentations. I guess I'm interested in hearing a little bit more about your sustainability strategies. How do you sustain the benefits that you've achieved through those implementations? And is that an internal and external strategies, or can you talk more about that?
You mean the sustainability of the digital solutions, or?
Indeed, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so that's one of the key things we focus on, is basically to ensure how we're reaping the benefits out of these solutions. And we have introduced internally certain KPIs that would basically give responsibility to the business groups, where they on regular basis report the utilization and the realized benefits out of these digital solutions. So pretty much for the critical ones, we monitor the utilization, and also we ensure availing enough adoption and training programs so that we ensure that those users will end up utilizing the digital solutions that we have introduced to them.
Yeah, I would say, you pick technologies that are going to be value added, that people are going to use, and you pick technologies that help you be more sustainable. One of the ones that comes to mind, electrical engineer, one of the ones that comes to mind is our eSCADA system. And everybody know what eSCADA is? Anybody know what eSCADA is? Raise your hand. Okay, so you know what a SCADA system is, right? You're here at an automation conference? Come on. Who knows what a SCADA system is? Okay, there is life out there. Did you see that? Okay. So an eSCADA is an electrical SCADA system. So a SCADA system is just to monitor the fluids and pressures and temperatures and levels in your process, right? Supervisor control and data acquisition. An eSCADA does the same thing, only it monitors the electrons in your wires. And that's just as important. Right, it can find hot spots in transformers. It can find power factor problems. It can find loose connections. It can find an amazing amount of data around your power distribution system, right? So, I mentioned earlier, you want to make sure that your plant runs, because your plant shuts down unexpectedly or you lose pieces of equipment. Not only does it take a while for you to get started back up, it creates a bubble where you have more emissions, you have greater cost, you put people in harm's way, okay? And that's what you don't want to do, right? So when I mentioned safety earlier, and I don't want to get off on a tangent, but there is no safety incident ever that's ever happened on the planet that didn't happen because of a reliability problem. So you can wrap your head around that and argue with me later. But there's never been a safety incident that didn't happen because of a reliability issue, either directly or indirectly. So when you have reliability problems in your plant, you put people in harm's way and you don't protect the environment. So your process becomes inherently unsustainable, even if you're in the business that we're in, right? So those are the things that you want to invest in to help, and that's easy. Everybody has a power distribution system, right? if you can go in and figure out how you can wire it together and get that data, you can really leapfrog ahead, right?
For Saudi Aramco, what was the time frame to do the transition, beginning the project to where you are today? How many people, how large was the team? What was the most serious challenge to overcome? There's several questions here. Did the staff have the skills to do it early on? You had to grow those skills. How's that going along for workforce?
So we started our digital transformation program, I would say, with the introduction of a digital strategy back in 2017, where we officially announced the digital strategy. And the implementation of the use cases that I have shared with you today would really depend. I mean, it varies on the scope. Sometimes it would take us a year to implement the solution. And sometimes it would take us a bit more than that. I think for my team as the central engineering team, I don't have issues with the knowledge in introducing and developing these tools. So when it comes to the business groups, what we did is to have and ensure close engagement of those teams with us since the day one of the solutions development and the scoping of the solution, so that they also take some ownership in introducing the solution. And we also ensure a proper training throughout the development of that solution, so that at the end, when we complete the solution, they will be basically utilizing it effectively.
Can I get a microphone up here?
So first of all, Mark, Ahmed, Jim, thank you. It was a good set of discussion items. So my questions to you, Jim, specifically around the polypropylene and the plastics process that you mentioned. So especially in the context of automation as well, I would conceive that maybe one of the biggest challenges would be for you to manage the sourcing of the polypropylene in the first place, in terms of sorting different types of material, maybe end of life cycle of an automobile. But how early into the process should we think about things like recycling of plastics? And what's the process to think of sourcing and picking and sorting different types of plastics before it goes through a process like this?
Could you repeat the question? I got
Okay.
about half of it.
So what I heard, and you double check me, he wants to understand how you, before it gets to your actual process, how do you pick, how do you clean, how do you pick the right plastics to go
Oh,
in?
this is so cool. Yeah, okay. So first of all, it happens way upstream. So you mentioned automobiles, you mentioned other things.
That is correct, yes.
Right. So you partner with people that get you plastic, and you partner with municipalities. You partner. Right now, we have a Pure Zero program that if you go to the Cincinnati Bengals game, we have our Pure Zero program. You'll see our trash, not trash, waste, our waste collection bins that we collect plastic. We've done that with Orlando Magic right here in Orlando. We have a Pure Zero program to collect that. Now, that's a small amount of plastic that we get every year. It's not a whole lot. Our first plant is going to run about 107 million pounds per year. So it's a lot. It's about 95% efficient, meaning that the plastic we get to recycle, we get 100 pounds, we can get about 95%, 95 pounds yield, and we get about 5 pounds of waste or co-product, right? So we go upstream and we look for those places. We go to Rumpke and we go to WM, we go to these different companies and we say, you know, how can we get your plastic? How can we get high purity bales of polypropylene? And we partner with those. We also, we want to look at municipalities and say, you know, how can we get trash collection and make it easy on people to participate at their home, so that when it gets to the curb, there's a good chance it's all plastic and not plastic and eggs and diapers and everything else, right? So it's an evolution that has to occur as a society. It might interest you to know that Cincinnati, Ohio they announced a plastics recovery program. And of course, you know, everybody said, that's a great idea. We all want to participate, right? And they said, well, it's going to be $3.75 more on your trash collection bill every month. And only 40% of the population said, yeah, we'll do it. You know, so you have to make it really easy, and you have to send that message that this is necessary for the sustainability of the planet. And it's an evolution. It takes some time to get people to understand that, you know, that recycling is a real thing. And the problem has been early on, mechanical recycling, only about 1% of plastics are recycled, in particular polypropylene. Only about 1%, because you can only sell about 1% of it. You can only make so many park benches and deck boards and trash cans and other things that don't rely on, you know, odor or appearance. So now that this process exists, there are other processes as well. I'm sure you've heard of pyrolysis and other processes that can take plastic and turn it into oil, and you use that for energy. But that's essentially just taking it back to its constituents and then burning it, oxidizing it. We're taking that plastic back to its original use case. So you don't have to get that oil out of the ground to make that plastic new. You can use this process to make it new again. So to answer your question more directly, we're involved all the way up to the front, and we're building prep facilities all in the United States. We have 3 in play right now. We actually have 4, 1 in Ironton, but that's associated with our first extraction facility. We have 3 other prep facilities we're building. One right here in Orange County. We have one we're building in Denver, PA, Denver, Pennsylvania. I didn't even think there was a Denver before they told me. Terrible with geography. And we have one in Augusta, Georgia we're building. So those prep facilities, they take plastic and they separate it. So we can take any bale. It doesn't matter if it's high purity polypropylene or not. We take any bale from any waste producer and we can separate it. Of course, we keep the polypropylene, and then we sell the polyethylene and other, you know, if there's any PET mixed in or anything else, we push that down the line, right? So you have to be integrated. We can't just open the plant and hope people show up with polypropylene to run through the process, right? So it is very much integrated back to, almost like the oil and gas industry. You're integrated back to the wellhead. You have the best chance of success.
All right. Anyone else would like to ask a question? All right, well, I'll give you 15 minutes back. Thank you so much for attending.